We'll now have a panel discussion. This should be interesting. We have 4 members of the panel, and I'm going to invite them to make their way up as I read for you their bios. The first member of the panel is Brother Colin Hope, and he's a native of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. At the age of 20, he got enlisted in the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda. Over the years, he has received several promotions and presently serves as Assistant Superintendent of Police. He has served the organization for 35 years of unbroken service. Brother Hope, we are happy to have you as a member of our church. Our second panelist, Sister Marilyn Naomi Harris, serves in the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda for over 27 years. She has worked in several departments to include strategic communications as a public relations officer, professional standards and international affairs, and presently heads the welfare division. Sister Harris, we are delighted to have you as a part of our congregation. Our third panelist is Sister Valencia-Daley, and she's a public teacher by profession, a career that she enjoys in preparing children holistically for life. A few months ago, she completed her bachelor's degree in education, which will sharpen her skills and equip her for better service. Sister Daley, we are happy to have you as a part of our church family. Sister SJ.Govia is our fourth panelist. And Sister Govia grew up in this church and has helped to nurture some of our youth. She is a graduate of the Antigua Girls High School, the Antigua State College, and the Cave Hill, the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus. Sister Shanika presently teaches Spanish and French at her alma mater, the Antigua Girls High School. We are happy to have you, and I hand over to our panelists.
Good morning, church. Good morning, church. All right. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Wishing you a blessed and fun-filled day. I know it's not easy. Right? Because as a teacher, I've had my experiences. All right? But the good thing is, at 1:30, when the bell rings, belaying, you guys take over. All right? So may God continue to strengthen you and bless you as you parent. Good morning to the panelists.
Good morning.
And how are we this morning?
We're great and
All
blessed.
right. All right.
Okay. All right. Give it this way.
All right. So lately we've been noticing that the youth, even the youth in the nation here in Antigua and Barbuda, that we are wondering what's happening, what's going on. We've read in the newspapers of the many fights that they're getting into, you know, the anger issues that they're having and all of that. So to the dear panelists, how can the church help parents and children alike with coping with peer pressure, peer acceptance, attention-getting behaviors, and power-seeking behaviors? Again, how can the church help parents and children alike with coping with peer pressure, peer acceptance, attention-getting behaviors, and power-seeking behaviors?
Can I begin?
Anyone can begin.
Yes, good morning, church. Yes, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers here. And don't take me slightly by saying a special Mother's Day greetings to my dear queen at the front here. Yes, in regards to the question, it's been commonly said, and of time of old, it takes a village to raise a child. And a lot of us here are parents, but we too are children. And the foundation that we would have gained then is what would help us in order to rear our children today. Now, we are challenged, and we see so many things happening around us. The topic, as I see, as listed here, most of it surrounds what we call depression, and that gives reasons for some of the reaction and behaviors that we are seeing in the society. So when someone is depressed, it can be mild, it can be severe. When it becomes severe, we're talking about situations like suicidal thoughts and other things of that form. So it's important that we pay attention to our children, who they associate with, how they socialize, and things of this nature. I know the time is limited, so I'll pass on to another participant here.
Okay, so good morning to all our wonderful mothers, spiritual mothers, physical mothers. I'll make an attempt to respond to this question. And in regards to the church moral responsibility, I want to give some suggestions and advice to the parents and children to assist us with coping in our environment with these internal emotions that affect us. Now, one of the main word in this question is the peer pressure. And I think that is what is affecting our youths. So I want to give a definition that I found on peer pressure. Peer pressure is really the influence from members of one's peer group. Influence. So when you hear about peer pressure, it's not like, it can be somebody forcing you, but it's the influence most of the time, what it does to your mind and your emotions. In a research that when I was doing my research, adults and children, all of us go through peer pressure. But only that, adults now, because of experience, we're able not to succumb to some of the negative peer pressures. But most peer pressures happen during teen years, young adults. And it affects them positively or negatively. So I just want to give a little bit of some of the causes. A desire to fit in, to avoid rejection, gain social acceptance. For some young persons, it's hormonal. Yes, it can be medical situations where just as how their bodies make up, they get fat, too fat, or they find themselves too thin, they say too skinny, my nose is too big. And, you know, I had that issues when I was a teenager. I grew up slim. I wasn't too badly really, but I just look at myself, you know, you compare yourself with your peers. Some persons, you think that they're more beautiful than you and so on. And personal and social, confusion, sometimes anxiety, and a lack of structure in the home. And for peer pressure, it can be positive or negative. So peer pressure doesn't have to be all negative. But in our society now, I was just observing, I'm just seeing possibly it's more negative than positive. But in the church, in the little groups that I'm seeing, I am seeing positive peer pressure being applied here, all right? And we get it from our leaders, our youth leaders, our pastors and so on. They're always motivating them and so on. And I'm seeing our young people performing academically. They dress, you know, in a way I don't think much of us would have to tell them to dress, you know, how to dress to come to church or to youth group. So there's where I stay for this question for now.
Good morning, saints of God. When I was told about this morning's task, I said to myself, I would not do a research. However, based on the fact that the question was asked, how can the church help? Then I had to do some research. And on a biblical perspective. I'm going to give you 2 scriptures and then expound. From Proverbs 13:20 says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. Romans 12:2. It says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. The family. The family is the first everything. The first church, the first school, the first love. So when we talk about the family, it means that as parents, we are the first ones that our children would have come in contact with. We have to set that foundation. And once we would have set that foundation, and one of the main foundations that we need to set is to bring our children to church. And when we speak of church, it is not confined to Johnston's Church of the Nazarene. It is the church holistically. We have to bring our children to church. We have to teach them the ways of the Lord. And as a church, holistically, we cannot be silent. Because what I would have observed, that it doesn't matter what is happening in society, the church is usually silent. What is the cause of us being so silent? Because if I can recall clearly, if we're going to be disciples, we have to be out there teaching. And whether we are teaching by having open air services, or we're in schools, or even the groups we have in church, it is not confined to us. Because those in here, I would believe, those of us in here, we already know about God. So what about those on the outside, the parents who need help, the children who need help as well? So that is what we as a church should do. We should make sure that we follow the Bible to the T and to assist parents and children so that the behaviors, the type of behaviors that are likely to put them in prison or have them being rebellious, we're able to nip it in the bud early as a church.
Let me add here that as we speak about the church, now we all believe that, say, Jesus cares, Jesus saves, and even those persons that are challenged and depressed do pray, and sometimes is searching for answers. So sometimes the Lord make doctors, psychiatrists, physiologists, and among those, teachers, police, pastors, all of us in some stage do suffer some form of depression, anxiety, and sometimes it results in, or the results sometimes don't turn out to be good. So while we may say we pray, there are help outside of the church. We cannot just say that the Lord saves and that alone gonna help, because sometimes people need more help than that. Because, as we say, peer pressure, as Sister Daley said earlier, is not only linked to young people. What about if I is depressed? What happened to my home? How do I help my children? They too will be depressed. We have to look at the financial situation, the emotional situation, and things of that like. So it is more in depth sometimes than what we think. Persons may come to church smiling faces, while they step out the door, their situation. So the church, not the physical building as we are here at Nazarene, but is the example that we show. We should be mirrors of the people in society. That when people are challenged, that we can be approached where answers can be found and encourage someone. Thank you.
So in addition to what my co-panelists have said, I just wanted to add some practical situation that I think the church, which is the body here and us individually, wherever we go, can do. The church here can integrate programs pertaining to family matters, especially targeting single parents, the nuclear family, especially new families, and the extended family, because in many families, the father is not there, and grandparents, aunties, and so on, they have to step into that role, right? So the church could integrate programs from a biblical perspective, all right? Thank God we have our technology now, and I don't know how many of us really look on it, but we can post things on it. We can make pamphlets. We have persons, I guess, resource persons here, could have a little pamphlet and maybe quarterly, and just to give to parents, to a young person, so they can read and reflect on. Those are some ideas come. We could have, those things could involve some of the current things that are happening in society. We gear the pamphlets, whatever research we have on that situations. The fight, how do we help our children to cope with those who are fighting, and you're being bullied and you see fighting around you? You tend to want to fight also. But how do we have to build resilient children. So later on in one of the questions probably posed here, we'll adjust that. I think the church could have standards or goals for the groups, the members that they have in different groups. For instance, for us coming to this assembly, usually what a person see or what they experience when they come, they will conform to what they see happening, right? Sometimes if you bring a bad habit or you used to do it, you will conform. Now, if you come to a church and you see everybody that is on the phone, let me use an example. A lot of persons are on the phone while the pastors are preaching. Persons are getting and going up to the bathroom very often, and things that are inappropriate. So I think the church in the groups would teach, set some standards or explain so that new members, new persons coming into the church family can conform and change to be like the way God wants us to be, right? For children, pertaining to the peer pressure and so on, I think I'm a teacher. The children, you can read, go on research. How can I, get away from this? Because there's material all around. You have your youth leaders, you have your pastors, and look for somebody that you can confide in, right? Because the pressure out there is really real, and you have temptations, and in order not to go off, getting into depression, as Brother Hope was saying, and do funny things, there are resource persons in the church for young people, for children. So parents, that's just some of my practical suggestions for church. And
good. So the popular theme coming out is encouraging, speaking, and listening. But for me, I am happy that as the church, we have the greatest example, because Jesus himself went to pressure. He was tempted, but I am happy that in the end, he said that he overcame the world. And I think that we can encourage each other to know that it's not all lost, and it is possible that we can resist temptation because we have the greatest example. So question number 2. How can the church assist parents and children in coping with anger? That's a big problem now. Apathy, wanting to give up when life becomes too painful, boredom, sadness, guilt, fear, and anxiety. Again, how can the church assist parents and children in coping with anger, apathy, wanting to give up when life becomes too painful, boredom, sadness, guilt, fear, and anxiety?
Even before the church steps in, as parents, we need to have eyes where we're able to see what is happening with our children. Because in the homes, we have children who are very rebellious, children who are withdrawn, children who are accustomed of being a part of family celebrations, family meetings, family outings. But all of a sudden, those children, you find that all they want to do is stay locked away in their rooms, on their telephones, tablets, or whatever, and not being a part of what is happening in the home. When children are locked away and parents turn a blind eye to these signs, then we realize that those children may become suicidal, they're overwhelmed with anxiety, and they become sad. So as parents, I admonish us to have those eyes that we're able to see what is happening with our children. And also, when our children disrespect us, because all what is happening in the home, we have to deal with it on the home level first before we can seek help on the outside. So at home, and you realize your children are rebellious. When you speak to your children, they stand up in your face, they disrespect you, you walk away, you do nothing about it. You start making notes, whether mental notes or you're jotting down notes in your diaries as to what is happening in the home. Your children go to school. On their return from school, you realize that they're not discussing what happened at school with you anymore. Nothing about homework, nothing about what other children may be saying to them, where you're able to assist them, and they're locked away. So, parents, here's my advice to us as parents. Well, I'm a parent of grown children. My children are adults. However, what we need to do is to continue to be there for our children, question them. Especially another thing too as well, we have our children who has some expensive mobile phones that we did not purchase, and we say nothing about that. We have our children and we realize that they have money, but we don't question where they get the monies from. So as parents, what we need to do is to have a direct link, a direct positive relationship with our children, so we are able to look out for all these signs, as well as a relationship where they're not afraid to speak to us. Because if we do not have that relationship with our children, they're going to be afraid to speak to us, and they're going to go and get help on the outside. And usually the help on the outside is not positive. So it's up to us as parents first to do our groundwork. But then when we realize that we're not able to get through to our children, then we seek the assistance of the church. We can speak to our pastor, or if we have leaders in the church, group leaders, we can speak to them and ask them to intervene. We can seek counseling in the church for our children as well. But then, yes, we do understand that God, He's always there and He will never leave us nor forsake us. But then the same God, He allows us as well to seek other help, because our children may be going through the type of disorders that we're not able to deal with on our level. Yes, God helps us, but then He gives way for us as well to seek other help on the outside. So with the issue of anxiety, mental issues, then we can call on the outside for other help as well. But it goes back to us as parents, as mothers, as fathers as well, to be on the lookout for all these signs that are affecting our children, so that they would not become withdrawn, locked away, and then we would lose them to society or something greater.
Once again, church, and I just want to go over the question as it was posed. You see, how can the church assist parents and children in coping with anger, apathy, wanting to give up when life becomes too painful, boredom, sadness, guilt, fear, and anxiety? Now, sometimes we overlook the conditions of mental health and mental wellness. And sometimes your child might be, you never know, they might be on drugs, they might be using substances that is unknown to you, and you have certain type of behavior. Now, what is your responsibility? They're saying that we have to be friends of our children. Otherwise, they're not going to be close to you. They're going to find other partners, other friends elsewhere. So you would not be able to know exactly what's going on with them. Now, how can the church help? I looked around. It's not, I would say, central to Antigua, but all around. For example, going back in old times, the thing that you call like grace before meal, foundations. Some of us don't longer pray. Go to school, come back, you're talking about children's rights. There's no foundation. And without foundation, we cannot build the house, we cannot build a building. So our children are challenged. But the church has to continue to do what the church has to do, based upon biblical principle. We cannot be conforming, like you might hear saying, we have to do things in order to attract the young people. But the young people want to do the things that are for the church. So they would have to come. The church has to be persistent and just do not give up. Okay? Now, there are parents that are challenged. I know I'm probably going ahead of your question, but there are parents that are challenged. For example, you have single parents probably doing 2 or 3 jobs. Children left unsupervised. You have YouTube and all those things. They learn in their way, and you don't know what's going on the inside. So you start to see behaviors that might seem strange to you. Another thing that is foundation, and I believe it happens even in the church, is that we as adults cannot speak or discipline other people's children. And I think that is one of the big way. You see a boy or girl going down the street, they go home and complain, Mr. Hope, tell me XYZ, why is Mr. Hope interfering with my child for? And this thing. So the lack of respect. We no longer say good morning or good afternoon. All these things. They may seem simple, but it goes a long way. I thank you.
Yes. I think as parents and adults, some of us have found ourselves in making some choices and decisions that are really affecting our lives. And if you find yourself in that situation, you're in the right place. You've come to church. Now, the word here is being really taught. And one of the things we have to do is to apply the scriptures to our lives. We have to observe what is going on around us in our lives. Sometimes you just sit down or you just lay down and see what is happening. What is happening with your children, what is happening in your home. And then you adjust. If you have to take even paper and begin to write your thoughts and your ideas. And what I'm really recognizing, some of the issues coming from the bad choices that some of us have made. And you find it hard to cope now with those situations. But from my recollection here, I think that parents need to have that time together with the children, and it starts from young. Just an experience that I used to do when I just collect my children from school. Every day I ask, how was the day? And so they go up with that. They're talking, and so sometimes now they start to tell me how was the day. Now if somebody bullied them, if the teacher was rough to them, if they fell down, whatever, I'm knowing everything. And then I'm hearing they're talking about this friend. So I say, so that is your best friend and whatever. And so you're following them. Also, as mothers, we have to organize our lives. We have to get up early, do what we have to do. I got that advice even before I got a children from a Christian mother, and I used it. She said, you have to set aside time for your family. So you get up early or you stay up late in the night, organize yourself for the day. So when the children comes home in the afternoon, you have time to spend to help with the homework, help with the feeling. If you'll be able to look at them and see their face change, you know, and you'll say, what happened to you today? Then you come home hustling to be cooking and all kind of things. They're trying to do homework, getting frustrated. You don't even know what's going on. So one of the practical things I see as mothers, as parents, is to organize our lives. Organize it, in such a way that you'll be able to can sit in the living room, sit around not doing anything, but you're observing and you help and assist where you can. Another thing is to play with the children, trouble them and so on. Teenagers, preteens, when they come, one of my panelists said that they like a sister, Marilyn, yes, they like to pull. It is just a thing when they start to go up. When we start to go up, we begin to have our own thoughts, and then they get their own friends, and they're in their own world. So one research, I like to research, there's one thing I want to know, this is one of my motto. Anything you get into in life, research, find out about yourself, get to know it. So one of the things I found out is that you go to them. You see, when they reach to that stage, age 10, 11, 12, and on, they like to go and in their space. But not all the time we're going to go. But sometimes you just go in, rapper, whatever, if the inside can come in, and you start to talk some of your business, and then say, so what's going on, and so on. You start that like a meeting. Then we can have organized meeting also, where you take off, the television and social media, and you organize a little things so that you can discuss the scriptures, and discuss issues the family is having. If you're having financial issues, you have big enough children, you tell them, listen, because daddy not working well now, you realize so and so, I can't get to give you whatever, I can't get to pay the bills. You tell them, and they will go into that place to express themselves to you. They start to come and say, Mommy, what happened today? That, and you will get things out of them. I find really another thing is parents try to involve your children into coming to Sunday school and youth meetings and whatever the church. Yes, we're saying the churches might not be doing enough, but whatever little the church is doing, those of us who are here need to support. And it's not going to be benefit for us as parents, but full benefit, but for the children. One of these days, we are going to leave them. And it's the foundation that we give to them will help them to cope with the pressures of this life. And they're going through greater pressure than when we were growing up. So let the time be you push them into whatever. Even if it's a community group, a social group that you find, is imparting some skill or anything. Summertime, look for things to send them, learn emergency, learn different things. Listen to programs that are going on around us so we can build our resource level to impart to our children. Because if we do not do to us, it's going to affect us. And if each of us do our little bit, our society, our church family will be better.
And to sum it up, let us as parents, as mothers, lead by example. Let us not sit down and have negative discussions about other people and expect that our children are going to do better. Let us not drink alcoholic beverages, get drunk. Let us not smoke. Let us not live double and triple lives and expect that our children are going to do better. So as parents, let us lead by example and the help of God, and we will be sure to see the fruits of our labor.
Amen.
All right, so we're seeing that as parents, as mothers, that we should be good role models, and communication is key. And because communication is key, we're going to ask this question to the panelists. The importance of family meetings, that is short these days, especially in single-parent homes where substance is used, sex is exploited, there's neglect of parental duties, and that is obvious, in many instances, children are left for long periods unsupervised. Please elaborate on the above and state how the church can assist. The importance of family meetings, especially in single-parent homes where substance is used, sex is exploited, neglect of parental duties are obvious, and in many instances, children are left for long periods unsupervised. Please elaborate on the above and state how the church can assist.
You know, this topic is very topical. And I know we could probably go on speaking all day, you know, because there's a lot of issues here. Now, single parent. I know I touched on it a bit earlier, but single parent, I know it's a challenge. And sometimes a single parent, one may be unemployed, likewise they might be employed, but are they in a position meeting the needs of the child? And I do know that when your needs, for example, like food, shelter, even to go to school, getting a meal to go to school, it is difficult on the spiritual side of things. We're speaking about, yes, come to church, but coming to church hungry. You know, your mind is someplace else. So I think where the church is needed here, it is more outreach. We got to go out. There are families that are in need. How can the church help? You know, sometimes we see kids running about, where your mother, where your father? There is nowhere around. They're there on their own. So they're there to develop habits. I speak to a young man sometime recently, and he was telling me, you know, I'm on my own since I'm 13. You know, some make it through, but where some of us ended? In the prison, committing crimes, murder, among other things. Drugs take control. You see them all along on Market Street, see them on the boxes. For some, most time is the mother, most time is the single parent. A lot of times, I would say 90% of the times, that mothers are the single parent. So to be there for a child to supervise, I guess there are things that you would have to give up on, right? As I mentioned earlier, you're sending the child to church, but you're not there. Yes, you might be doing things based upon principles that you may have learned at an early age, but yet you're still trying to put food on the table. So the church is supposed to be that place, that light, where help can be sought. Well, as I said earlier, it's not the building. It is the lives that we live and how we portray ourselves out there that we'll be able to get somebody to follow us, and our words which find foundation in them, that they could understand and say, this is the way, the church is the place I'm supposed to be. As the Bible says, train up the child in the way that they should grow. It may not come one time, but what is left? Down the road, you realize that the church, Christ is the answer. Train them up in the way that they should go, so that when they become old, they will not depart from it. I thank you.
Family meeting is important because it is the avenue where our children are allowed to express themselves to us without fear. If you do not have a structured family meeting, now is the time after today's discussion where you can put that in place, whether once per month, once per week. You have that meeting and you invite your children to sit and discuss the issues that are plaguing them and find ways to address those issues. Children want to know that they are included in our decision making as well. So when you have family meetings and you would have heard from your children about those issues, you would have heard what you can do to address the issues. If you're not able to, then you can reach out to the church and other agencies to assist you. Growing up, I can recall that our family meetings were every single morning at 5 a.m. when we had to wake up for worship. All of us had our turn as to when we would pray, sing a song, or just to take part in worship. Because Brother Harris, he was a local preacher, and he did not play with us when it comes to family worship. So it is important, if your family meeting is not going to be about worship like what I had, then you can find another structure. Because there are times our children are crying out, and we're not able to see the signs that they're crying out. But if we sit on a round table and you say to your children, speak to me, let me know what is happening with you, then you're able to address the issues that are plaguing our children. So yes, family meetings, it is important. And another thing, parents, it is all good and well when we have second and third jobs. It is all good and well when we have second job, a third job, a fourth job. But then we should put things in place so that when we leave home to go to those jobs, our children are not left unsupervised. An aunt, a cousin, somebody, you leave them in the care of an adult who is able to assist you. Be that person in your stead who will take care of your children and keep them from trying to be adults before their times. Because we have children who are thrust into adulthood way before their times. Because as parents, as mothers, we think that, okay, I have a 12-year-old, I have a 13-year-old, look after your siblings. No, that is not right. So let us have those meetings, let us put things in place so that we always have our children supervised when we are not present.
Very good. So I have mentioned in my 2 cents practical ways that we can improve on how we are managing our family, managing our time. Christians, parents, we are supposed to be wise people. And even though things are tough, prayer is the key. Prayer brings change. Sometimes it don't happen in weeks. It happens in months. It can happen in years. I have seen one of my brother, he wanted to really do his own thing when he's little, causing a lot of issues. And I've seen how he turned around. Not even being say a Christian yet, but I say turn around from ever entering into prison, how his life is just, And prayer is very, very important. You just go down on your knees and keep praying and praying. And if God says so in his word, it's supposed to happen. He said he will answer, but he never tells us when he will answer. We have to go through the pains and the suffering like what we do in childbirth. So I have said my thing, organize your life, make plans, how this day is going to go, as Sister Marilyn says, get somebody, if you're a single parent, to take care of the children. Organize, have a little backyard garden. If you know things are tough, I don't know. But just think of ways, throw the little box money, and you credit and you do what you have to do and so on. We have to set things in place. We all have to know what we want our children to become. How do we want to see our lives in the next, when I come old? That is why in the world they put insurance in place and they have all kind of programs to say, oh, join this because when you retire, you're going to get this. Well, we can do it on a small scale. What do we want to see? Or how do we want to see our children when they finish school? Do you want them to see them going to college? Do you want to see them living a life that will please you? You want them to see shacking up with somebody. And something was said, very, very important. We need to show example. Need to show example. Just a few days ago, I heard about a family, and we happen to know the family. They're Christians. And one of the children, the son, right now is real out of hand and damaging the house when he gets upset, hitting the father and all kind of thing, and they're Christian. One of the things that he was saying to the person that went to the family, that he come big and he see them, they argue before they go to church and they do all kind of thing. And they go to church and everybody they look at them like if they're perfect and they're angel. And he said he's not going to serve the God that they're serving. And that is really, 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 I felt it. So showing examples, parents. If you have made mistake when we were younger, get ourselves in situations, we can talk to them about it and tell them what is our expectation, what I would like to see, because so-and-so happened to me and I wouldn't want it to happen to you. And you put prayer with that. Thank you very much.
Now, I'm looking at the question here, and there's one that we need to look at. We say in the single parent home where sex is exploited, and it is something that we cannot play blind to, because what happens in single parent home where sex is exploited, a lot of times the child, a young daughter or son, sometimes it's not an easy topic to talk about, and if you're not that close to your child, a lot of that's going to be happening around you, and you don't know, right? So, in the church, maybe at Sunday school sometime, maybe it's a topic that probably need to be discussed. Sex is a topic that most people don't want to talk about, but it is important, okay? And in doing so, we help our young people to be more open and find help where they can get it. Thank you.
All right. So we've heard it from the panelists, and what we can gather is communication is key, being a role model, all right? And just setting the foundation, setting the pace for the lives you want for your children. So to the panelists, thank you very much for taking part this morning. To the audience, you've been a lovely audience, thank you. And once again, to the mothers, do continue to enjoy the service and continue to have an awesome Mother's Day. Thank you very much.